All right, thanks, Denis. I'm Barry Goodison. I'm chair of the Ottawa Centre of CMOS, and I want to welcome you to the start of our fall winter session. We've had a 4-month break, and you can tell that a few of you that got locked out to begin with, that there are some hiccups or changes that we had to work out, so apologize for that. Before I invite Bob Jones to introduce the speakers, I just want a couple of housekeeping notes. And if you can turn off your video and sound, your sound will be turned off, but if you can turn off the video, that will minimize any background noise that may occur. The questions will be handled using the chat function as it was last year. And we ask that you type in at any time during the talk your question through chat. We don't, and then I'll be leading that discussion, reading from your questions. So hopefully that will work rather than having everybody jumping in. As Denis noted, it's being recorded, and that will be made available on as a YouTube video on the CMOS YouTube site, and all the last ones from last year are also there, so this will be joining it. So rather than going into other messages right now, I'd like to turn it over to Bob Jones to introduce our speakers today.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can all hear me and see me. I'm been asked to introduce the speakers, and this kind of connects back to Peter Kimbell's previous talk to CMOS Ottawa in 2018. At that point, he came to the mess, and we didn't have any hiccups of setup. We all had a beer and ate lunch before Peter's presentation about the Ottawa tornado outbreak. So now, as you've seen on the screen, Peter is still the warning preparedness meteorologist for Environment Canada and climate change. And it's the same position he's in as he was 3 years ago, but he also does a lot of other staff jobs, and they were all listed in his long bio on the website. So I'm not going to go through all of those. I'll just go through the basics and maybe share one screen here if I can. Peter got his BSc and his MSc both at McGill University in the late 1980s. Now, this is of interest because probably he took most of his meteorology courses there, and they were in English. Next, he joined the Cours Opérationnel en Meteorologie number 7, set in 1989. And this is where he became an operational meteorologist. And if I can just share a screen here, we'll see what I can do. I'm not sure if I can see it. Yes, there we are. Double click. There we have Peter on course back in 1989. And there's another picture as well. Let's see if we can see that one. If we can't, it's not too important. We at least see there he was on his course, and it's of interest that he took this course totally in French. So he came to MSc fully equipped to move onward and upward, but he still loves his warning preparedness position the best. Just close that off now, and back to me, I guess. Can anybody do that? I don't know whether I can do it or not. You're still hearing me anyway. Get started. How do I close that? Can you close that out, Denis? Not sure what I do to close that.
You have a stop share. You have a stop share green button.
Oh, good. Okay.
Or a red one. Stop share.
That one? No, not neither of those. Just a minute. I'm sorry.
I can probably kick you out.
Stop share, there it is. Okay, so that's a little background on Peter. I think Peter is going to be better prepared to introduce Barbara. Just suffice to say that Barbara is not a full-on meteorologist in the mafia term of way. She worked in the Public Service Commission of Canada, somewhere in PSC, I'm not sure which department, for quite a few years, and then joined MSC in 2014. Barbara has expertise on broadcasting and websites and sending clear, concise messages to the public. So this is how she fits into today's talk. And I guess my conclusion is that I decided to recommend Peter, if possible, for this talk today, because back in March 2021, the radar map, which we often all look at, changed radically from the familiar round green background with called Franktown radar, which we all looked at, to something far more comprehensive and bigger and different. And Peter and I dialogued on this quite a bit. So we're going to hear more about it from Peter, and I'll stop right now and give it over to Peter.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start with the video. The first slide I was going to share actually just kind of introduces who I am, but Bob's already done that, so I won't even bother going to it all. The second slide basically is a link to a video, so I'll just share that screen now. Screen 2, share, and you know what? I think I might have forgotten to click add sound, so I'm gonna unshare that. If I can figure out where to go to unshare that. Yeah, I have to share the sound too. Stop share, and I'm gonna do this again because I need to share the sound or else it won't work. Share screen, screen 2, share computer sound, optimize screen, there we go. Okay, so it's a 2-minute video. And here we go.
Severe weather like tornadoes, hail, and ice storms can protect Canadians and save lives. But accurate forecasts require detailed information about what's happening in our atmosphere. Doppler weather radar is an important part of gathering this information. It works by sending out pulses of microwave energy and by listening as those pulses bounce back off objects in the atmosphere, such as raindrops, snowflakes, and hail. By comparing the data from one pulse to the next, movement can be seen within weather systems, allowing forecasters to detect the speed and rotation of storms or identify wind shear, which is particularly important for aviation safety. Environment and Climate Change Canada is replacing its weather radar systems across the country with new, faster, more capable units in order to better inform Canadians about changing weather. The new radar use dual polarization, which means they send out vertical as well as horizontal pulses. This gives better information on size and shape of weather systems and enables forecasters to distinguish between raindrops, snowflakes, and hail, or even birds, bugs, and tornado debris. The new radar are also much more powerful, helping to see weather developing further away. This is especially important for storms which may cause flooding, as less powerful radar are sometimes unable to detect beyond a close storm cell, and heavy rain from a following storm cell can be missed. The extended range on Canada's new Doppler weather radar will allow forecasters to detect and track dangerous weather like tornadoes earlier and over a larger part of Canada. Accurate and timely information about our weather helps us keep Canadians informed so they can make plans and stay safe. Forecasting.
Okay, I'm sorry for the coughing fit there. Now share screen again. This is going to be, I hope this is going to work this time. I don't need to share computer sound. Share. So hopefully you can see this. There, okay. You should see Franktown radar on your screen, and I'm going to go to my other screen because my video is still there and I want to get rid of that one. Okay, great. Yeah, we've had a few hiccups. Technological hiccups, coughing fits. We're there now. I'll try to make this fast. I've got a bunch of slides to talk about in 20 minutes or so. Less 2 minutes for the video. So apologies if this goes very fast. How do I click? How do I change slides? Here we go. Okay. That was the video that I just showed you, so we'll skip that slide. Okay, ECC radar network. This slide is taken from our EC Environment Canada website, basically discussing our weather radar modernization project, which was announced on February 28th, 2017. Initially an $80 million project for 20 radars. It's now, I think the full project was about 120 million for 33 radars. We're replacing 31 radars. The existing 31, we're adding one in Fort McMurray, and there's also a training radar for a total of 33 radars. The next slide, and of course, it's we're going from C-band to S-band, and I'll talk about that in the next few slides. This slide shows you the Canadian Weather Radar Network at the end of 2020, so the end of last year. I'm an Ontario weather warning preparedness meteorologist, so I focus on Ontario. In Ontario, there are 8 radars, and the 3 here in red, Britt, King, and Franktown, are being replaced this year. But by the end of this year, the only one left in Ontario to be upgraded from C-band to S-band is in the Thunder Bay area. So we will, by the end of this year, because Britt is being replaced as we speak. So right now there's a bit of a black hole over Britt, over Sudbury, from a radar perspective. But King and Franktown have been replaced already. So we've only got a shooting left to go. By the end of this fall, once Britt is up and a couple others that are still being replaced, there will only be 5 left, I believe, or maybe 6 across the country to upgrade. Next slide. So here is an example. This is from Foxwarren, Manitoba. This is a photograph showing you the new S-band radar alongside the old C-band radar. Obviously, they're bigger. The radome is 11.8 meters. The old radomes were either 5.5 or 9.1 meter radomes, depending on the location, or depending on the manufacturer. We're going from 250 kilowatts of power to 1 megawatt, so 4 times the power. And also, interestingly enough, this particular photograph also showed the X-band radar. I think we had 1 or 2 X-band radars, very small X-band radars across the country during the project to help out. And it was located here at Foxwarren, I think, initially. You can see how much difference the size are from the X-band to the C-band to the S-band. So this is this one here on the left is the new one. Here's a photograph showing you a close-up of what the S-band radar, the new S-band radars look like. By the way, the contract was awarded to a German company, Selex, S-E-L-E-X. So yeah, they're the contractor who has been installing them. The new radars have the transmitter located right below the radome. So apparently it's the actual conduit from the transmitter to the antenna is much smaller, which makes for less signal loss. So it's improved quality of the data. There's a weather station here as well. The ground shelters at the bottom where they have some electrical equipment, etc. So yeah. Here is a slide showing you some of the information from Franktown. The old Franktown radar is on the top left. The old one alongside the new one. This is the old C-band, the new S-band here. Now the size difference is not as great because in this particular case, the old one was 9.1 meters and the new one is 11.8 meters in diameter. So less of a size difference, but still the new one is bigger. You just can't tell it by this picture here. And once C-band was removed, this is what it looked like here. The old C-band was installed in 2000, so we got 20 years out of it. That's not bad. And the operational date for the new S-band was August 3rd, so it's been running now operationally for almost a couple of months now, a month and a half. So some of the technical data I'll get into in a minute, but basically, yeah, I'll get into most of this in the next slide. I think the one thing I did mention here, we go from 250 kilowatts of power to 1 megawatt, so it's 4 times the power. The other factoids here I will talk about in the next slide, and of course we're going from C-band 5 centimeters to S-band 10 centimeters. So yeah, I think I'll talk about that in the next slide. And single polarization, horizontal only was the old one, and now they're dual pole, so horizontal and vertical pulses simultaneously. Okay, in this particular slide, I just wanted to show you that the new radar has fully dual polarization technology, allowing for more precise and timely weather alerts. So it has not only a horizontal pulse, but a vertical pulse that are transmitted simultaneously. Has an extended Doppler range, a 400% increase. Actually, it's not true, it's 300% increase. So the area is basically of the old radars is a radius of 120 kilometers. The Doppler radius was 120 kilometers. The new Doppler radius is 240 kilometers. So if you subtract, actually the increase is 300%, but regardless, it's 4 times as great area coverage of the Doppler radar. So that means we have more coverage of Doppler information, which does help us with our weather forecasts and warnings. Reduced attenuation. Because it's S-band 10 centimeter radar, actually the beam penetrates storm cells better than the old C-band radar did, which means that we can see through storms to storms on the other side of storms that we wouldn't possibly have been able to see before. One downside to the S-band is that it does have less sensitivity because the wavelength is greater here than the old one. The sensitivity to light, rain, and snow near the ground is less. However, that's compensated for by the fact that it's 4 times the greatest power. So I think forecasters have found that it's actually pretty good. And the reduced scan time. So we had a scan every 10 minutes. Formerly, we had basically a conventional scan for 5 minutes, and then a Doppler scan for 5 minutes. So every 10 minutes we get a new set of scans. Now we're going down to 6 minutes with the Doppler and the pulses being basically done simultaneously, horizontal and vertical being transmitted simultaneously. And then we also have reduced maintenance visits as well. So formerly we had 6 times a year. We'd have to do maintenance visits. Now we're going down to 2 times a year. Some examples of some dual polarization based products. I'm not going to get into this in detail because these are fairly difficult to interpret, and even the forecasters are still getting their heads wrapping their heads around trying to understand and discern the different patterns that some of the different weather phenomena produce. Differential reflectivity is ZDR. Differential phase shift is phi dP. Correlation coefficient are rho HV and specific differential phase KDP. These are not on our website. They can be accessed on some apps, but I'll get to that in a minute or two. But suffice to say that we certainly have access to them. I think there's one still missing from a forecaster perspective, but the public does not have access to these at this time, unless you pay for it, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Derived dual polarization products, however, are available in the sense that on our main website, we're now displaying quantitative precipitation estimate as a replacement for the reflectivity that we were formerly showing. Formerly we were showing an image called a product called Precip ET, extended version of Precip. And now we're showing a quantitative precipitation estimation, which basically is an improved version of an estimate of the precipitation intensity. And it does use dual polarization technology to produce that. And I will show a good example of that in just a minute. So we have our website is now better in terms of what it shows in terms of the precipitation intensity. We also will eventually, I think, show QPE, quantitative precipitation estimates of how much rain has fallen in the last hour and the last 12 hours. But what goes on the website and what doesn't go on the website, I will just kind of park most of that there. If people have questions, I would refer that to Barbara. Part of my presentation is introducing our website to you, that Barbara will talk about in more detail. So I said I would show an example of what can be used. This is an example of the constant altitude plan position indicator CAPI 1.5 kilometer image that you wouldn't have seen on the public website, but you would have seen if you'd used some apps. Now, we have access to this still, this kind of imagery. And on this particular day, a couple of weeks ago, September 10th, this was in the evening at 1 Zulu, so 9 p.m. You can see a fairly extensive area of blue, and yet it was clear. It was a clear sky. There had been a line of showers go through just previously, but it was in the Ottawa area mostly clear. But there's a bit of an area of green out here, so we're kind of wondering what that was. Next slide shows the PPI, which is basically a kind of a view at a fixed angle looking outward from the radar. And you can see the intensities are actually a little bit greater near the Ottawa area, or in the Ottawa area near the radar. So a bit puzzling what that is, but we can still see the area of green out near Cornwall, which is interesting. The next slide shows one of the base dual polarization images that we got from this particular day. And this is the correlation coefficient, and you can see here an area of basically yellowy oranges for the most part, and then blue. Well, blue is pretty low on the scale of the correlation coefficient, and even yellow is 0.7, or maybe at the most 0.8. But that area near Cornwall, look, it's in the purples, 0.98, 0.99, practically 1. That's a clue that it's very consistent. The targets are very consistent in the horizontal. They're consistent one to another, which means that it's probably rain. And lo and behold, the precipitation rate, the QPE that the algorithm picked up and produced on our website, was an area of showers, and pretty much everything else is biological in nature. And I will get to that again at the end of the presentation. I'm going to have to try to speed up because I'm probably behind. Tornado debris can also be spotted as well. Here's an image that shows reflectivity, ZDR, ρHV, and VR. Now, in a nutshell, this is the reflectivity showing you the precipitation intensity. This is the velocity, the Doppler velocity. So a little bit of a couplet away and to and away. So the possible signal of a tornado. In fact, there was a tornado on this day. This is near London, southeast of London, a year ago. And lo and behold, there's a little bit of an area of green right here, which again is very low on the scale of the correlation coefficient. So that's probably a tornado debris signature. There is an algorithm that is being produced by our researchers called the particle classification algorithm, the PARCA, which I'm not sure if the plan is to put it on our public website. Barbara can elaborate, but I believe that there is a plan to put it on our Mart site. It hasn't been rolled out yet, so we're waiting for that, but it's basically going to show where where we have snow pellets, ice crystals, wet snow, dry snow, biological clutter, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll wait with bated breath to see if the public gets access to this or not. In terms of where to find weather radar imagery, of course, our main webpage is where we put a lot of this information, or where we put our QP, the Doppler polarized QPE now. Go on the radar site, and there's our new radar page that Bob alluded to, changed significantly earlier this year, and I'll let Barbara discuss that. One thing to note is that there's no Doppler velocity or dual pole imagery. It's only DP filtered precipitation intensity, as I mentioned already before. Other sources of information, we have our app. So our app contains the same thing as on the website. Mart provides some of these single radar images, the GIF images that if people want to access that, dd.weather.gc.ca. And geospatial layers are available on our GeoMet website as well, if you want to use those to layer onto an existing application like Google Earth or Esri Earth, whatever. Other Canadian sources of information, Nav Canada also displays CAPIs. They still have the older CAPIs on their website. The Weather Network also displays information. They also include a forecast, a radar forecast on their website that we don't do. Well, although the plan, I think the plan is that we will be getting to including a Nowcast soon. One note of caution, though, is I think their forecast is fairly rudimentary, and then it takes basically existing echoes and then moves them along without any development or either positive or negative. In other words, what it sees, it moves along in the direction of motion. I don't believe there's a whole lot of I don't believe, if you're looking, for example, echoes developing or dissipating, I don't think it takes that into account. I don't know a lot of details about it, but they do have the forecast algorithm, which is interesting. Radar Scope is a pretty cool app. If you don't have it, I recommend it. It's a really good one. It's an American product, of course, but it does include Canadian radar imagery. There's a free version, which does cost $10 one time, or a pro version. It does include all our imagery, including dual polarization imagery. So it's pretty cool. Recommend that. Forecasters do it actually quite a lot. Weather Underground app and website is actually, I think Weather Underground is actually, I think, a subsidiary of Weather Channel, also connected to IBM. I don't get into all the corporate connections there, but I think that's true. And there's a forecast layer there as well, which is, I think, more complex than the weather networks. The weather networks, correct. And then, of course, there's other apps as well, Weather Bug, Weather Channel, windy.com, AccuWeather, and some of these get our full radar volume scans from us, which they pay for. So they may have a bit more sophisticated algorithms, like I mentioned for Weather Underground. This is the Weather Channel. They probably have the same thing. I don't know this for sure. Almost done. Back to September 10th, I wanted to show you this again, this imagery. So on this particular day, this is actually the evening or the afternoon of the 9th, there was some rain over the Gaspé down to New Brunswick, Maine, and into New York and Massachusetts. There's also a cold front going across southern Quebec and southern Ontario. And you can see that most of the radar, but this is the imagery, by the way, that we forecasters see on our website. So you wouldn't have seen this imagery per se on our public website, but it does show all the low level returns, probably biological in nature, from all the different radars across southern Ontario and even the northern U.S. A couple hours later, the cold front was crossing the area. This is the 23 Zulu, so basically it's 7 p.m. And then 2 hours later, after sunset, look at that. All of a sudden, the echoes kind of explode in nature, and that's what I was looking at earlier. And there's a little echo that I was talking about before near Cornwall. And those echoes kind of exploded or continued further west as the sun set from east to west. And then by morning, they kind of dissipated again. So what question, skill testing question for all of you folks, what are those blue rings? Hint, they were visible from sunset to sunrise. And I don't have access to the chat, but I think that's my last slide. I think I'm done, and I'm going to exit this slide, and I'm going to look at the chat and see if anybody can come up with an answer for that question. I don't know how to find the chat, but I think I'm going to stop sharing.
Peter, I'll grab the chat at the end after Barbara's talk for all of you and go through the questions.
Do you want me to leave that question hanging for now, and I'll provide the answer later, or should I just give you the answer right now?
I leave that up to you of how much drama you wish to put in.
Well,
do it now.
I'll give you the answer now. Okay, in case people leave. So I'm pretty sure the answer is actually migratory birds. And I've read this before. This is an example of migratory birds basically being detected by the radar. Yeah, so that's the answer. And I will pass it back to you.
Will you be introducing Barbara?
You want me to introduce Barbara?
Well, you were going to say a few words about Barbara, or leave it up to her?
I'll just pass it over to Barbara. I think Bob's already introduced Barbara, and I'll pass it over to Barbara to continue to talk. I've kind of already introduced the concept of the new radar display on our website, and there was I'm sure quite a few people who had some comments about it when it happened back. I forget when it was. I think I would just pass it over to Barbara to let her elaborate on where we have come from and where we are going.
Okay, so Barbara, can you say something? Because you're on here more than once. I don't know which screen is the right one. There we go. So I got the right one.
So you see me?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't see me. So, so thank you. You heard it before. I'm not a meteorologist. I'm a manager of systems. I'm basically some kind of translator between program needs and communications into systems, into computerized systems. I've been with the Meteorological Services of Canada since 2014. When I joined, there were already many innovations being developed in the science branch. So our meteorologists in-house were developing new models, they were developing georeference products. There was a very active vitality around warning re-engineering as well. So many things were going on. And as I was joining the department, I was taking the pulse here and there about what was coming down my way, because you can imagine that anything that is being invented and developed ultimately gets served to the public. So thank you, Peter. You've put me in a very strange position. I am no decision maker about the content per se or the services that are delivered. And these are decisions that are made by other managers who are meteorologists and scientists. But I'm the one making sure that we can enable the technology to support those new services and new products. So back in 2014, as I said, there were many things being developed. I did a thorough assessment of the platform that we were using back then, so weather.gc.ca, and I could see right away that the system, the website, was not in a shape that could actually welcome all of those new tools. So we started thinking as a team with the computer developers, with the scientists as well, trying to develop some kind of roadmap as to where we were heading and what would be the priorities. And it became very obvious very quickly that we needed to change the website altogether, starting from its roots. In the meantime, you guys now know that we have a mobile application. This was developed a couple of years ago, and that led to significant development and advancement in information technology, leading to a need to also align the back end, to make sure that the coding of the two technologies were similar and that it was easy to support and maintain in the long run. all that to say that on March 29, 2021, yes, your radar has changed. I know that some people were happy, some others were not that happy, and some others actually had very good questions and made very good suggestions. So on that, I will show you what's coming up and what we are planning for you guys in terms of service delivery in the upcoming months or year. Do you see my screen here?
No, hasn't shared
Nope.
yet.
I'm not familiar with Zoom, so bear
So there
with me.
should be a share screen button, a green share screen button.
Yeah, I think I have it now. Can you see it?
It's coming. It has started screen sharing, but it is not showing up yet. Still
Thinking about it?
Still thinking about it.
Still, I will go on and you tell me when it shows. Seems to be frozen at my end. Between you and I, guys, this is why I never use PowerPoint. Okay,
You want
so
to stop sharing?
I don't know. How do I do that? I
There
go
should
back.
be a red button, which is next to where you had your sharing, and now which says say stop sharing.
Yeah, but it says that Zoom is actually blocked. That's
Okay, I can stop it from here.
Thank you. I've been having issues with the software since I joined earlier today.
Says I can stop it. Come on. Stop participant sharing. Okay, now go back to talking.
Thank you. So where was I? Okay, so we started developing the platform. So you saw the radar. That was the first deliverable that was available to the public on March 29. I know that we've changed. I know that you are now presented with a composite, which is much different than the individual radar image that we were giving you before. But as I said, this is part of a global transformation. So the goals of this project.
Can I mention that you are now sharing your PowerPoint? We're coming through.
Oh, it's working now?
Yep.
Excellent. So there we go. So the objectives of the project, as I said, we are trying to align the data and the file processing and of the mobile app with the website. Of course, we want to enhance the user experience by providing a user-friendly, dynamic, and responsive platform. And we want to introduce geospatial products. This is something that was not possible before as we were using raster imagery. It's something that is now available and possible. Most of our products are now equipped with longs and lats, which makes it possible to deliver that type of innovation. So the project is actually a 3-year project. There's a bunch of things that have been happening behind the scenes that you haven't seen much. You may have noticed it if you are a technology savvy, or if you will pay very, very close attention to the changes in the products over the past year and a half. But what you will be seeing on the screen as a different product is, of course, the radar layer on a georeferenced map. That was the first one. Soon enough, in a couple of months, you will see an alerts layer on that same map. So you'll be able to see the radar and the alert all together at the same time. And the weather conditions is another layer that we will be introducing later on this year.
Are you advancing through your slides?
I am.
Okay, that's not advancing on the screens.
Okay.
Okay. So what we can try doing is I can try sharing and you tell me when to move.
Okay, that's good. I'm on slide 3 now.
Hang on, folks. Give me a second. Start participants sharing. You want to say something again, Barbara?
Yeah, definitely. So
Okay.
I did tell you about the objectives. What I'm about to show you is how we have a process that is user-centric. So what it means is that we do take into account the feedback, of course, of the users. We have a database of tons of feedback that dates back to several years. So when people are writing up to our national inquiry response team, we do have a log of that. And the comments in that database are what we have used in order to develop the first stage of this project. And of course, we will keep on using it for future development.
Okay, Barbara. So
Yep.
sorry to interrupt. I now have your PowerPoint visible to the audience. What slide are you on?
I believe it's number 4 now.
2, 3, 4. User-driven initiative?
Exactly.
Okay.
But as you know, because we are a federal institution, we have to abide by some rules. There are framework policies and directives on the web presence and design. Of course, we have to account for accessibility of the images and the products that we deliver on the website. So not only are we taking the user feedback as a source of information when we are designing and changing things, but we also have a few orders from Treasury Board Secretariat that we have to implement, making it a little bit intricate sometimes, but still we are careful not to change the functionality by too much. So every time that we introduce a change, we try to make it small for people to get acquainted with it before we have more changes. Back in March, there was an animated video that was introducing the new radar functionality on the website. I don't know if you have seen it. It's a 30-second video. It's still accessible on the internet. And we plan on having more promotional material as we advance with the transformation of the weather website. So as part of the few thousands of comments and suggestions that we got, we were able to actually action a few corrective measures very quickly after the launch. So you might have noticed that we have worked on the map itself and some functionality. A few things that are coming up is that we will be enhancing the linkages between the current radar layer and the historical radar individual imagery. I know that you guys have a particular interest in having an easier access to the images that were served to you before. We are also working with another program to augment the frequency of posting the historical radar individual imagery because it was 3-hour delay, if I'm not mistaken, when we launched it. It is now at 1 hour, and we are working towards to get it much quicker to you if you need to consult those individual images. Soon enough, we will be implementing a north pointing arrow. I know it is not the real north. I heard that, I read that, and I fully understand the issue. However, you can understand it because there's going to be multiple new layers coming up on that map of Canada. Right now, we have some limitations as to the projection that we can use. However, we are investigating new products. There is now a new projection available that is called Robinson, and we are trying to see if it is something that could fit our future needs. So bear with us. We are assessing other options. We are working with national resources to declutter the base map. That's a feedback that we got very quickly after the launch. It's true, when you zoom in, you have a lot of details. Some people like it, some others don't. So we're trying to find a balance between the likes and dislikes. And we will be enlarging the map view by moving the radar animation commands onto the maps. So the design is being developed right now, and in a couple of months, you will see that enhancement as well. As I mentioned, there's going to be more communications material when we go live with the other phases. So the next stage is planned in the winter, and definitely before the launch. And at the launch, there's going to be a very detailed video walking you through the changes and the functionality for navigating the site. Ready for slide 5. So as I said, during the winter 2022, we're going to be introducing an alerts layer. This will be replacing the page that you are currently using that we call between us the alert battle board. So right now you have, sorry, yes, it is enabled. I will show it to you later, Robert. The radar, sorry, the web page for the alerts right now gives you a national view of the map, and you can zoom in at a provincial level. We are taking this concept of service onto the national map that is geo-referenced. So this is what you will be seeing sometime in the winter. It will allow, as I said, to superpose multiple layers. So you will be able to see the radar echo on top of the alerted polygons. And it is aligning the design and the data processing with WeatherCan. So WeatherCan currently uses the same radar imagery. So we are moving forward in the same direction to make sure that it renders the same way on the two platforms. As I mentioned before, when I joined, we were working on the warning re-engineering. There's many things that are possible now that were not possible back a couple of years ago. And those new products and new components of products and information products will be able to be ingested on the layer. So you will see more information, and I believe that you will enjoy the next stages of this project. Next slide. So when comes fall 2022, there is going to be the rest of the information available on weather.gc.ca that will come onto the map. It doesn't mean that the website is going to be decommissioned. It just means that your source of information can be navigable on the map itself. We will be able at that point to superpose the information, the weather information, the alerts, and the radar. So whatever you like to see, you will have the control to activate or deactivate some layers. So for the visual people amongst you, I think that's going to be something very interesting. We will be aligning the design and the data processing between the app and the website, as I said, including the 10,000 locations available on the weather app right now. So you can foresee that we will be replacing the city pages with what we will be calling the location pages. So the location pages is sitting on that database of 10,000 locations, and you can actually zoom into that level, and you will be you'll be able to access all the information on the map as well as on a URL page. So if you want to bookmark the location page, like the city pages that you have bookmarked in your browsers right now, you will be able to do that as well. We're trying to be careful in terms of usability so that we don't confuse the users. The other option will be to navigate from the map. Then there's also the possibility in the future to ingest new models. So a few examples: high resolution model data and spatial resolution are things that we are looking forward to bring on the map. Of course, what Peter showed you earlier are options. So we will see how the program reacts to that and how they want to actually serve the new information to the public. Bear in mind that we have on average 2,000 visitors a day on the web platform. So there's multiple types of users, people who know weather like you guys, and there's also anyone on the street who just want to have weather information. So we need to take into account the various needs and the various level of understanding of the weather business and science. So this is why the programs are taking their time to assess very thoroughly the services and products that will go on the website in the future. Next slide.
I only have 6 slides.
Okay, so I think there's one missing, but that's okay. Don't worry. So I know that there were a few questions in terms of functionality of the website. I know that some people had questions about how to use it. Someone in the chat asked about the full screen view. It is on the website right now. I don't know if I can share my screen for that.
I will stop sharing so that it'll give you the capability. So you can try it. Go ahead.
Now I have many people on Teams chatting. Hold a second, I'm closing windows. Okay, so share. Do you see the website now?
Yes.
Excellent. So I'm on weather.gc.ca. In a couple of months, you will see the map actually showing here on the landing page. Right now, because we only have one layer available, which is the radar, you can click on the thumbnail for the weather radar. I'll just bring this down here. So this is what you are seeing since March 29, right? If you want to see the full view, the full screen view, you just have to click on this square icon on the left-hand side right here. So that's how you can see a full screen. Of course, my radar is opened. So you have the radar commands, and the commands you can, the controls you can expand or collapse depending on what you want to see. You can zoom on your map and then show your commands and activate the animation. You have the same functionality as before, so you can select the short or the long imagery set. From the menu, you have the controls on the color legend. So if you want to have the 8 color or the 14, and we also have a sublayer that allows you to activate or deactivate those bigger rings that that show you where are the radar located. For those of you who don't like the details, you can switch to the simple mode. So you don't have the roads anymore. That's another way to visualize it. So I'm open to questions now. If you have very specific questions, I'm going to zoom to Ottawa. Right.
Okay,
here.
as moderator, I'll handle the questions that have been put in on chat, if I may, Barbara. And a couple of them I think you've touched on, but I'm going to go in the order they came in. So the first ones are probably directed at Peter.
Do we want to stop sharing that screen? There we go. Okay.
All right. So the first question was from Scott. Is there a plan to release the raw radar volumes on the data mart or through other means?
The answer to that question is I'm not the authority, but I'm pretty sure the answer is no. I think that the raw volume scans are available through a cost recovery process. So there is a means to access them, but there's a fee for basically the getting the data from them to you essentially. So yeah, I don't think there's a plan to put it on the data mart.
Okay. There was one from John who said, are the radar sites protected from things like ice storms? Is there spectrum at S-band for future growth? Are there other users of this particular radar on S-band, such as in the US?
Are the radar sites protected from things like ice storms? I assume that question means are the actual radar is the hardware protected from accumulation of ice? Yeah, good question. I would assume that I mean Celex was the contractor. They built and designed the actual radar. So I don't know if ice accretion was taken into account. Good question. Don't have the answer for that one. Is there room in spectrum at the S-band for future growth? I'm not sure what that means with future growth. One thing I can say is that there are some electromagnetic spikes that are visible at times, not in the cleaned version that you see on our website, but we can see them. And you probably if you go to the NAV Canada CAPIs, you may be able to see them. And that's because there's more and more competition for the bandwidth, so sometimes there are other users of like maybe not cell phones, but other users of electromagnetic bandwidth whose frequencies combine to be pretty similar to the wavelength that we're using. And that's what causes the spikes. And I think the Industry Canada, or whoever the organization is now that replaced the new name for Industry Canada, the people are trying to fix that problem. Don't have any more information on that than that. Are there other users of this radar on S-band, such as the USA? The USA definitely does use S-band radars too, yes.
Okay, great. And actually, Peter, you'll see some people who were guessing at your question.
I saw
and
that.
actually,
I saw that, and the first one was right. Good for you,
yep.
Jim Pro. The good guess.
So those are there for people to follow through with. We get down to Mustafa. His PhD research focus is on severe thunderstorms over Canadian prairies, and he was wondering where he can get raw radar data or who he could contact at MSC.
Well, there is the simplest way is just to email me and I can forward you the contact. So peter.kimbell, Kimbell at ec.gc.ca. We used to have canada.ca emails. Anyway, long story. We went that way and then we came back again. So we're back to ec.gc.ca email. Send me an email and I'll provide you the contact.
That's great. Thank you very much on that. The next one from Peter Taylor. I put in context, so he knows a bit about radars. As well as NavCan, as well as the NavCan one, can get individual radar copies on ECC historical radar site, but there is a 20-minute delay. And he's asking why there is that delay.
No idea.
The delay is due to data processing and file processing in the back end. So we are aware that there is a delay. The software is packaging the data as it comes in. There are also some different timelines since we've switched to S-band. So the information is not processed at the same time for all of the radars. There's always been a delay. It's just that maybe you notice it now. This is something that we're trying to work with the scientific group as well as the IT group to reduce to a minimal delay for the service delivery.
Okay, thank you. Andrew had a question. What are the X-bands doing if they are being deployed, if they're not being deployed, sitting in a warehouse? Question.
Well, the short answer is I think that there were originally 2 X-bands, but for possibly, I think with breakage, one wound up being only 1. And so I know that there was some, I received a bit of some questions about, well, why can't you put an X-band in Ottawa when the radar was being replaced? Well, at the same time, Ottawa was down. Toronto, King City was also down. So there's only one in the country, and I believe at one point there was none. So the option was just not there, and I don't have the full answer as to why. That would probably be the answer would probably reside with the people who were managing the project, and I don't know.
Okay, and a comment that he added as well is he does like this view, and he didn't realize that northern BC and the western parts of the Yukon are covered by Alaskan radars. So I think that's when you start merging all these pieces together, it becomes very useful for users to see what is out there. George Isaac, another one of our radar experts. Radar information has degraded since the new version came online. Does ECCC have a plan for an external advisory panel for weather displays, including the radars? There are simply too many problems that currently exist. You do not appear to be consulting your experts. Rather pointed question.
Yeah, good question. I know, George, but George, I assume that you're talking about the website, not the radars, not the data itself. And so if that's the case, I think I would want to throw that question over to Barbara and see if you can answer that one. There you go.
Catching it. So we are consulting. We've been consulting our service experts, of course. There's actually different points of view in terms of appreciation or disappreciation of the weather platform or the radar platform on the website right now. I do understand what you're telling me. I do understand that some people were using the rings in order to do some on-the-fly forecast. And I know that it was very useful to many users. I did read a lot of the comments about that. And this is why we're trying to render the individual radar more timely for the users of what we used to have. Now, in a context where we are refurbishing the radars themselves, and they come down for a couple of weeks or months, depending on the installation or maintenance schedule, the composite imagery was already being produced and delivered. That has been going on for a couple of years now as a substitute product to the Precip ET. And now that we are running on a full national composite, some people actually appreciate this new product because they feel that there's no interruption in the imagery. As we are planning to ingest new models in the future, including the forecast radar, you can see that it's going to be much more flowy to have this national composite on the website. So there are pros and cons. I do understand that. We do consult. We have consulted internally. We have taken into account all the feedback from the users over the past few years. We were trying to line up with the actual replacement project in the department. There is a UI UX, so usability and accessibility expert that has been hired. So he will be working with us from a website design and functionality perspective. And that person will also hold a few focus group sessions with groups of interest that will complement the service requests and identified needs. So if you do have comments and if you do work with our service line, definitely, I mean, all the feedback is being considered right now. But as I said earlier, there's different types of audiences. So we're trying to find a middle ground in here, but we're always open to listen to feedback and suggestions and comments. You have my emails. You have my email. You have Peter's email. He said it earlier. So definitely, if you want to share information, I'll be more than happy to read it.
Okay, great. Just to comment, Dee Dee Davies had a question on adding projected course of precipitation or tracks. And actually, Jim made a comment that there is the mobile app called My Radar doing that projected precip event for locations already. So, and I think that you mentioned in your talk, Barbara, that you're looking at including the future projection tracks, URP, I forget which one right now. Apologize if I got that wrong.
I certainly mentioned it, and I know that some of our competitors, the Weather Network, does something like that, and the Weather Underground, Wonderground. But as I said, the Weather Network's one is not very sophisticated, I don't think. I know that there is work ongoing in producing this kind of product, and as to whether it's going to be published on our website, Barbara, you would probably know more than I would.
It's coming down the pipes. I just don't know exactly when, but it's coming. This is why we're trying to have the infrastructure ready to adopt those new products.
Okay, great. John Reed asked, what improvement in severe weather warnings to the public are anticipated because of the new systems? That could be Peter or you, I guess, Barbara, but start with Peter as the warning preparedness meteorologist.
Well, because of the new systems, we have now 240 kilometer radius of Doppler radar coverage. So we've expanded the area covered by each individual radar for Doppler imagery. So that alone will help. That'll help a lot in summertime. There's also a component of wintertime as well. Because of the new system, our algorithms are now going to be dual polarized, so we'll also be improving precipitation typing, and that may be made available to the public as well. So not only summertime, but also wintertime warnings will have improved. The warning should be improved because of the new imagery that will be available. And I already did show you an example of a tornado debris signature that was available. So that kind of, again, there's more and more information available to the forecasters to help detect severe weather. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, great, thank you. A couple of last questions. One from Len on, I guess it really comes down to how do you want feedback, continuing feedback from, let's say, the general public, not just the experts, on radar product improvement? Where should that be directed? Similarly, on the WeatherCan app, users are not directed to a feedback site. So if people have feedback, can that be improved, or can you provide a link where they can send their suggestions?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, NERD is still in effect. It's still being it's still an activity in operations on a daily basis. So I'm guessing that if you are referring to NERD as NERD, you know our business.
Yeah.
So if you go on any page on the website under weather.dc.ca, there is a feedback button at the bottom of it. If you click on it, it's going to take you to the comments form. So this is where you type in your comments. In the near future, you will be able to actually narrow down very specifically the category of your feedback. So this will be even more informative when we compile the feedback that we receive. On the WeatherCan app, there is an icon at the top right where you can actually leave feedback, and this is being redirected to our email system. So we get it in real time. And those are the two best ways to reach us. Small questions, big questions, small suggestions, big suggestions. We read them all. So by all means, use it not only for the radar, for anything else that you see on the website or on the WeatherCan. We are interested in getting your input.
Okay, great. I'll say this is the last question, then I have one for you as well. Are there plans to expand the network spatially, i.e. add more sites other than the two you mentioned, Peter, let's say, bring it up to 33, or have this is what we've got for the future?
I have not heard of any. I have not heard of any plans for an expansion. That would require Treasury Board submissions, a request for more money, and no, I've not heard of anything. So I think this is it for the foreseeable future.
Okay, and I have one last question. You touched, Barbara. You said something about visits per day, the number of visits per day. I wrote down 2,000. Is that the right number?
2 million.
2 million. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Okay.
Because I thought off by a factor of 1,000.
But I think it's very interesting that you give that, because I have a golf group that I play with, and I'm in charge of trying to give the direction on the weather, because we play in different quite a range from Renfrew down to the St. Lawrence. And what's interesting is the sites that I access, when I come to talk to them, they say, well, you know, it's whatever's on my phone that I look at. How do you expand to get to and many of these people were senior managers in the government of Canada, like directors, director generals, and so on, not in ECCC. But how do you get the message out there that this is where people should go for their weather, rather than using the American products that come with their phone?
It's such an interesting question. Remember, I told you I joined in 2014. It's not a long time ago, but when I joined, we didn't each have a smartphone in our pockets. That happened a couple of years after. And it's funny enough that we saw the impact on our numbers, not by much, because our users are loyal and they keep on visiting. But we could see that in 2016, when everybody had a smartphone in their pocket, the numbers went down. And it was very interesting, because all of a sudden everybody had a weather app accessible at their fingertips, right? So it's very interesting. Peter referred to other sites as competitors. Yes, we can see them as competition. We each have our own way of displaying information, but all the data comes from us for most of it, right? I use those other applications and websites as benchmarkers because I need to benchmark what is outside in the industry, what they are able to deliver and how we can adjust as well. Because I do understand that for some users, specific users, golfers, for example, but there's also the soccer moms and soccer trainer, they have different uses of it. So they need to have access quick and easy to generic weather information. And then I have more advanced users who need to have more details and more data. So how do we market our product? It's a very intricate question. Of course, I'm not in charge of the whole thing, but communications branch, they do have different platforms. Social media is one of the vehicles that they use. There is a lot of promotion being done on there. There used to be a lot of third parties who were identifying us as the authoritative source. I've seen that decline a little bit over the past few years. However, when you look, for example, at the Weather Network or the Weather Channel, they always have that Canada trademark, right? They do refer to us as being the source of the data. Weather.gc.ca is well known. I mean, the audience is still very big, so people have not forgotten about us. I can see we monitor the stats as to new users of the weather app, and soon enough we'll have more stats and metrics about the website, so we can actually assess the trend. In terms of marketing, that would be communications branch. I don't have much more to say. I think that the WPMs and the other meteorologists in charge of providing service to the population, direct service, of course, they make a reference to our platforms. Now, how many people contact them? I don't know.
Okay, I think it's always a challenge. You know, there's many sources out there, same as looking for forecast models all the way from ECCC, which one day maybe they'll make their new high resolution product available to the public instead of hiding it. And but thank you. I want to thank both you, Peter and Barbara, for a very interesting presentation today on bringing us up to speed on the radar and the website and dissemination of information. And I apologize to everyone for the hiccups at the beginning. As I say, that's like 4 months off, and we all sort of dozed through and said, oh, what are we doing now? So we're back at it. And in that sense, I wanted to remind people of the presentation next month, the 21st of October, it will be, when Dr. Alan Betts is going to speak on science and society challenges. And for those of you that aren't aware of Alan Betts, he's a well-known leading climate scientist in the world, not just, he's based in the US in Vermont. Some of us have worked with him when we did some US-Canada joint work in Western Canada back just a couple of years ago, like 20 years ago or a little more. But I think he's going to bring a very strong perspective. Many of you may have seen him on TV already. He's a very accomplished person in terms of getting the message across on climate and climate science and climate change. So I hope you'll be able to join us. And again, thank you to both of you today for taking time out of your schedule. And as I mentioned, this will be up on YouTube in the next few days. So thank you very much, everyone, for participating today. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.